Hi, everybody. It's Patty from Giddy Things. I was really kind of in a quandary about what to do my video tonight on, and because I was thinking about it all day. And, we had the sleep story, and that was lovely. And then I went back and talked a little bit about hedgehog concept and thinking about your passion in life. At some point, I'll learn to link the videos there. For right now, really don't know how to do that. I'm in the process, though. I'm a work in progress, not perfection. I hope that you'll give yourself that latitude as well. But I thought, I've talked about how other people's life experiences bring value to their educational experience, and I think that my life experiences might bring value to this channel. So, I am the youngest of 4 kids. I am married to a husband from another country, a husband. I have only the one. It's only the one from another country, and so we have, um, immigration, experience. I was born, as I shared in another video, to my parents late in life, so my siblings are quite a bit older than I am, almost like 2 separate sets of family, I guess, for my parents. I've always felt more like an only child. I don't know if you're separated from your siblings by a lot of years. Did you ever feel that only childness of everything, right? Um, Maybe I'll talk more about that in another video. Also, when we get into professional experience, I ended up going to college for a really long time. I have a bachelor's degree in English and a minor in French, and then a master's degree in liberal arts with a concentration in English and theology, cultural studies. I also have doctoral work in English and a doctorate from the University of what I'm not supposed to really say, I don't think. I don't know. I'll have to learn all this stuff because I'm kind of an open and vulnerable person. In sociology, in the specific area, are you ready? Because it's super specific and super niche of educational leadership as it deals with poverty and depression. So my specialization is in how to help people who are in poverty or are being oppressed, and usually the two kind of go together, to help them learn how to become leaders in their own life. And that's the reason that I'm qualified to be a life coach, which is also incredibly rewarding. I offer those life coach skills free to my students, but it's something that I'd like to build a client base for. Then, so that's education, right? Even though I went through it quickly and it took so much longer. When you say it like that, and then you think about all the years it took to get to that point and personal goals, um, it can be a little overwhelming to think about, but that part's behind me. I don't think I'm going back to college. My husband says I'm not going back to college, even though if I decided to, he would totally support me. But there's really no reason. I need to get out there, be an active and productive helper at this point. I just want to help. That's another thing about me. I'm really active in helping members of my community. It's super important to me to build community. I think that's the way that we get out of poverty and oppression based on my qualitative research and the research of many others who came before me is literally to just get stronger in our communities and stand as a united front as a community. Now, that having been said, it's like, oh, all this la di da education. I don't think I'm better than anybody else. I think that whatever your bliss and your passion and your ability are so incredibly valuable to our world. And mine is just different. It's not that it's any better or worse, it's just different. I do have a lot of experience teaching. I began teaching when I was getting my master's degree in middle school, and I loved that. But college teaching and research was always the dream. Now, here's the interesting stuff that probably is going to actually get, I hope, more people to look at this video than anything else. From the time I was 15 years old, I was raised in the beauty supply business. And I'll explain what that used to mean as opposed to what it means now in a second. But my mother and her whole side of the family, almost everyone, was a hairstylist. They used to call it beauty operator. My mom graduated from beauty school in 1944. Before that, she did a lot of things. She started working as a waitress in a diner and then in her small town. And then when they moved to a larger town, it was difficult for her to find a job. She couldn't go to college. She was very, very intelligent. Most especially, I mean, I know now, due to some things that I might share later, that my mom was most likely on the autism spectrum. She was just an absolutely incredible person and really knowledgeable, but there was no opportunity for a girl to go to college in her world, especially since she had to get out immediately and start helping her family. She made a paycheck and brought that back, and her family pooled their resources together and made things work. Her father had passed away one day before Social Security went into effect when she was 12 years old. And so, because of that, and there's a lot of stories that go with that that I probably am going to develop into a podcast about my family, because there's lots of interesting stories there. Everybody's family has interesting stories. Think about some of yours. And the point is, if I'm in my mid 50s, that means that if, my mom has passed, my dad has passed, and they could still be alive, but they both be in their 90s, and which would be great. But there's a lot of stuff that you learn from not only reaching this age, but having been raised by people the age that they were. And so that whole being brought up, I'm going to try not to get off into my ADHD too much, but that whole being brought up in the beauty industry was interesting, right? I've never been a person, I love to play with makeup, but my default setting is just a clean, moisturized, skin-cared face, right? And this goes for men too. I noticed from my YouTube analytics that about 45% of the people watching my videos are male. Men have skin too. And, in America, we've been odd about this for years, but many countries, skincare is for everyone because, this is skin, right? And it doesn't matter the gender you identify with. You're a person who needs to take care of their skin. That's something that I am really careful about. The makeup from day to day changes, but the skincare stays the same. And a lot of that has to do with my being brought up in the community of people I was around during not just the hairstyling days that my mom had a beauty shop, but also later on in the beauty supply business. So back in the day before Sephora and Ulta, get settled in for a nice little story. Back in the day, once upon a time, before Sephora and Ulta and all the other things, there were certain product lines that were only sold, and there still are a few, but that were only sold in hair salons. So you had to go to the hair salon to buy the product. To be honest, it was about the same price as you'll get it from an Ulta or a Sephora. And I love both of those stores, but um, it's just the prices have always been about the same. It's just that we were the middleman for the hairdresser because we sold things that only hairdressers could buy in order to shop in our store. And my parents and my sister's store, they went into business together. In order to shop there, you had to have an active license in the beauty industry, whether it was hairstylist, barber, my mom again would say beauty operator. Um, Cosmetologist is the correct term for, the school that people go to. It's very difficult. Estheticians, nail technicians. So you had to be licensed in our state or another state in order to buy the products. And we also provided a great deal of education for our clients. So we would have classes about how to give a more effective permanent wave, a perm. We had classes about how to use the hair color that we sold. Hair cutters come in. There used to be famous. I don't know. You can tell me if you're watching this and you're in the beauty industry, or whatever we call it now. I used to call it the vanity business, which is kind of sad, and it's also a foreshadowing of how I'm going to talk about feeling about that. But anyway, I'm an English teacher. I'm not a hairstylist, so that probably answers a lot of questions. And I'm a sociologist, not a hairstylist, and so either one would be great. But I sucked. I tried a little. I didn't like it at all, and I wasn't good at it. It takes a special ability to be able to to do that, to do people's hair, their nails, to be involved in skincare services. I can feel many videos coming out of this. Anyway, I did a lot of things that other people only dreamed of. And we had been just a working class family from paycheck to paycheck with a mom who knew how to be frugal and budget money. And then 5 years after the business was open, it really took off under some really difficult odds, which I may end up sharing at some point later in other videos. And I learned so much. I had so many people in my life who were important to me from diverse communities early on. I came from a relatively typical Deep South life of people who went to church and tried to help in their community and, you know, just a regular family when we were nuts, but just a regular family sort of if there is such a thing. We had our own dysfunction as every family does. But I was able to be around a wider variety of people and communities because of the beauty supply business. The LGBTQIA plus community is one of those communities. I had many, many honorary aunts and uncles who were so good to me during that time. And I'm so grateful because it shaped the way I thought about people from an early age and how everybody was welcome at the table. And so that was something that well, I'll tell you, when my sister sold the store eventually and went in to do something else, it was kind of an eye opener because I hadn't had to purchase any beauty supplies for years. Now, of course, I did silly things like any kid. I was a teenager in the 80s, and so I would go and buy whatever mascara everybody else was buying and stuff. But in my parents' and my sister's store, it was just a ton of stuff that I could get for free, really. Um, and some of the most expensive makeup in the land. I'm going to do an entire video about one particular skincare line that we used in the store. Now, I can't afford it anymore. I can't afford it anymore, but I will link it down below. It's Gerda Spillman. It's a Swiss skincare line that I specifically was one of the people in the store who showed, when I worked in the store with my family, who showed people how to use the Gerda Spillman products. They don't really look as expensive to me now as they did back then when I was working actively in the beauty supply store in the 80s and 90s. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so expensive. And it was, but things have become so over the top costly in the skincare and hair care community. I don't even recognize very much anymore. I don't know how people really afford all of the things, but there's a few products I still purchase from Gerda Spillman that I really, really like and that early on I used, and when I got it for free, right? God, that silly girl, if she had only known, I would have begged my sister, don't sell it, don't sell it. No, I'm joking. But I use skincare products now primarily from Origins, which I will also link below. But as you know, if you watched another video, which I would link here if I knew how, and someday I will, I also use quite a bit of petrolatum, however you want to pronounce it, or Vaseline, right? It's what most of us call it. And so I use some really low cost products, but when it comes to the stuff right next to my skin, I want to do what I can afford. I want to be responsible, but I also want to be sure that I'm using the best that I can afford. And one of the things that, I mean, I learned many things in the beauty supply business and went to many classes and things like that. But one of the things I learned is, there's a difference between industrial grade um, ingredients and pharmaceutical grade ingredients. And that can be a big deal when it comes to the skincare that you choose. So I learned tons of stuff. I can basically cut a regular bob haircut. I can color hair pretty well. There was a lot of I used to color my own hair. I mean, I haven't colored my hair in years, but when I was a kid, I wanted my hair to be jet black, and so I would do that myself with the professional hair care products that or my sister would do it for me or my mom would do it for me. So it was really I did not like being a part of the business, but it was a really good way to learn a lot of things, and I look back on that experience now and think, "Man, if I hadn't I mean, what would I know now if I hadn't been through that?" And so that's what I mean when I say lived experiences, bringing a lot of stuff to the table, because you really don't know what you don't know. And growing up in the environment that I grew up in was such a blessing. And of course, having a wonderful family and having wonderful parents was phenomenal. But I did that, and I also helped to take care of one of my, younger relatives during that time, which was a blessing. That was my first baby, right? I always say my mom was the first love of my life, and, this baby, it was my niece, was the second great love of my life, and then my husband came along and just everything, you know, went into a haze, but, around him. But the idea of being involved that early, I had never really taken care of a baby. I had maybe diapered a baby once or twice, but she became my first baby, and man, am I proud of her. Um, so that was quite a while ago. And, private things, personal things that I haven't decided if I wanna share or not on YouTube happened during all this time too. Then I taught middle school, after my husband and I got married, and then college, and there's lots of really cool stories. I should break this stuff down is what I should really do, and tell the stories, associated with it because 'cause they're kinda neat, the way things happen, the way God moves things, around to happen for you. And that's what got me to the point of getting really invested in college, in um, curriculum, and writing courses, and then managing curriculum for a while, going back to the classroom. But my real love is the classroom, whether that's virtual or face to face. I love being around students. And when I'm thinking about this stuff, there's so much else I could include. And there's so many things I'm forgetting, to be honest. Your life is really a great story. And I didn't think about that until I started talking about, what you bring to college and some of these videos with you when what you already have when you get there. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe I should share what I had, what some things that informed my life. There's way more stuff than what I've mentioned, but I think I want to plumb the depths of my knowledge of the beauty supply industry. And if you're a hairdresser and you've been doing it for a while, do you remember? Put it in the comments below. Do you remember when you had to have a license to get into a certain store? And oh my gosh, did people get mad when you told them that the public couldn't shop in your store? Even if you had a sign on the door that said, open only to licensed professionals. We got to a point where we had to buzz people in because if people came in and saw what we had and the wholesale prices on it, they were just like practically couldn't get them to leave. They were trying to go, "Oh, it won't matter this time," and whatever. But we could literally have lost our franchise license. We were a franchise of a larger beauty supply company that's throughout the Deep South. We could have lost our franchise over selling to just one person because we had promised them that the products we sold would only be sold, as far as we knew, in salons. Another thing that was really cool about that I learned a lot from, my sister was super good at teaching people how to set up their shops to retail products. And ultimately, I think a lot of the success of our store was about that, about her ability to help people learn how to make money for themselves. Because our idea was if we're honest business people and we're really not selling to the public, if our clients make more money, then we make more money. And the honesty behind the business really was charming to people because, believe it or not, now is not the only time businesses have been unscrupulous. And to be honest, my sister ended up buying her competition, which is for another day. But um, it we couldn't believe it because for 5 lean years, we were living on savings and love, and that was pretty much it. So, but that just proves to you that. And my parents, oh my gosh, my parents were, let's see, my dad was still in his 50s, but my mom was, I think, 60, 61, maybe, when we started this business. So there's the proof in the pudding. That's why age doesn't mean anything to me about going back to college or starting a new business or reinventing yourself, because my parents reinvented themselves so many times, especially my daddy, which is absolutely a whole separate video. As I like to say, a whole nother Oprah. My daddy and reinvented himself so many times out of necessity, because they lived during a time when, to be honest, technology was growing at a rate that it was easy to get automated out of a job. And that happened to several of my resilient, wonderful family members. So I have got so many stories to tell you and so much to share. And I just wanted to kind of tell myself and tell you that we all have these stories to share. We all have these wonderful lives that are really more exciting than anything we're probably watching on TV, and certainly more realistic because they really happened. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about my background. I feel like I've only really superficially talked about it. It's like, there's a lot more detail to it than that. So I'm going to make some notes about things I want to be specific and intentional in sharing. Also, coming up very soon is a Get Ready With Me video, which is going to show the debut of my ring light and my phone holder. So the light may be consistent. Oh, can you believe that? And the phone will be steady. Oh my gosh. You might even be able to see like me with some makeup on or something. I think I have one video currently where I was finishing teaching for a day and I had makeup on, right? So that's going to be a totally new thing. Maybe not, because it really doesn't make me look that much different, except for if I get fancy around my eyes. Some skincare videos, some day in the life vlogs. I'm really interested in doing that. So, what you would like to hear me talk about, please put in the comments below. And I'm totally open to suggestions. But any little thing you've picked up from the jabbering that I've done, if you'd like to know more about it, put it down there. Meantime, in the comments, like, comment, subscribe, right? That's what you're supposed to say. And also be sure to check out the stuff that I link in the descriptions. I think I already said that. Y'all, menopause, it's a whole mood. And I guess for now, go in peace and love to serve others. You are so loved by me and many others.